Over the past few decades, Beaujolais Day has joined the grand tradition, along with Cinco de Mayo and St. Patrick's Day, of America celebrating other countries' holidays. But while Cinco and St. Patty's are easily accessible to anyone with proximity to a Corona or some green food coloring, Beaujolais Day may strike you as a little bit more arcane, a little more dignified. After all, the early years of Beaujolais Day saw wine being delivered to Paris by elephants and by rickshaws. And if this sounds hallowed and traditional, keep in mind that this elephant and rickshaw delivery service didn't start until roughly the 1960s, meaning they could have shared the road with Adam West's Batmobile. In other words, it's all a bit of silliness and fun to celebrate a wine that, rightly or wrongly, very few think of as a serious wine. So how did it start? And maybe more importantly, is the wine worth all this fuss? Most of the red wines in Beaujolais focus on the light-bodied, low-tannin Gamay grape. Gamay is very suited to a style of winemaking called carbonic maceration that works like this. Whole bunches of grapes are thrown into a fermenting vessel and then sealed over so that they are airtight. In some cases, winemakers pump carbon dioxide into the vessel to drive out the oxygen. Without oxygen, a chemical reaction causes the grapes to ferment without needing yeast. In fact, the fermentation happens inside the grape. This leads to wines that are very light in color and body and often take on banana or bubblegum flavors due to the presence of a compound called ISOAML acetate, which we talked about in our video on pinotage. Carbonic maceration is very common in Beaujolais, especially in the wines coming from the southern regions. These wines are usually called simply Beaujolais or Beaujolais Village. The wines made in the north, where the granite soils allow the grape to get riper, tend to make wines that are much higher quality. These are called the Beaujolais Cru, and there are 10 of them. Many of these wines do not use carbonic maceration, instead using the traditional method of crushing the grapes, letting them soak up color, flavor, and tannins from the skins, and then fermenting them on those skins. But Southern Beaujolais is all about these light, refreshing, carbonically macerated wines. And historically, the vineyard workers didn't wait too long after harvest to start drinking the wine, the brand new wine. Hence the development of Beaujolais Nouveau or New Beaujolais. Now, in the early to mid 20th century, France was in process of developing a system of protecting the wines of certain notable regions. The first was the Rhone Valley's Châteauneuf-du-Pape, but it wasn't the last. Almost immediately, every wine region in France wanted to basically trademark itself. And Beaujolais was no exception. Winemakers in the region started holding festivals to celebrate the end of the French harvest. The festivals were wild and fun, celebrating not just the new wine, but the wines of the entire region. But it was the new wine that took center stage, and before long, a group of enterprising winemakers saw a great opportunity to market Beaujolais wines outside of France. Thus was born an international marketing campaign built around a simple slogan, Le Beaujolais Nouveau est arrive. The most important of these enterprising winemakers was a merchant producer named Georges DUBOEUF. He was born in Burgundy to a family of winemakers and had organized a co-op of Beaujolais farmers by the time he was in his 20s. In 1964, he started his own winemaking business, Les Vins du Georges DUBOEUF, and more than anyone, he saw the opportunity to make these Beaujolais Nouveau festivals a global thing. Now, originally the festival was held on November 15th of each year. Someone had the bright idea to move the shindig a little closer to the weekend, and they landed on the third Thursday of the month. This turned out to be a masterstroke because Gamay-based wines tend to do really, really well with poultry, specifically turkey. And the United States already had a festival of its own on the third Thursday of every month, one involving turkey and relatives who make you want to drink. Thus was born the American celebration of Beaujolais Day. In fact, America is the third biggest market for Beaujolais wines, right behind Japan and Germany. It should be noted that there are problems associated with the fixation on Beaujolais Nouveau. For one thing, it doesn't age well, at all. As a rule of thumb, most Beaujolais Nouveau should be drunk before the following May, after which it begins to degrade. This can leave retailers with tons of unsold stock by summertime. Secondly, global tastes have shifted towards more concentrated, rich wines, and Beaujolais Nouveau is precisely not that. So since the 1980s, the craze has begun to die down. But it's important to remember that Beaujolais Nouveau is only one style of wine from that region. After all, many people seem to lump all the wines of Beaujolais in together. And this is a shame, because the cru from Northern Beaujolais are often of exceedingly high quality and great concentration, in particular wines from Morgon or Moulin-à-Vent. Drinking Beaujolais cru is like tasting an exquisite, heavily steeped black tea from fine Indian tea leaves. Drinking Nouveau is much closer to taking a sip as soon as the bag hits the water. So don't judge, explore, and you can do it year-round.